Thank you for inviting me here to speak about orgasmic leadership. It's 2008. The bottom is falling out of the financial markets. Shearson Lehman is going bankrupt. People are losing their jobs. Companies are closing. And my business partner and I head to Silicon Valley to raise venture capital for vaginas. You see, we had a product that improved arousal, desire, and satisfaction for women of all ages and life stages. Let me say that again. We had a product that improved arousal, desire, and satisfaction for women of all ages and life stages. We had 13 meetings over the course of 2 days. Now, while from a venture capital perspective, each firm thinks they have very distinct investment theses and they have very different approaches, when you're the entrepreneur and you walk into one of these after the other, they essentially become a blur. The office furniture looks the same, the people in the room look the same, and they start to just really blend. So the objective of trying to go into these fundraising meetings is to get to the next meeting, to have someone say, I'm interested enough in what you told me today to schedule a follow-up call or a follow-up meeting to learn more about your business plan or to learn more about you as a leader. So here we go, meeting 1 of 13. We walk in and the first question feels like a layup. How is this different than Viagra? No problem. Well, Viagra, we explained, works as a vasodilator, which means that it increases the blood flow. And since the male sexual response works like a hydraulic pump, once the blood flows, the pump works, everything's working. Great. On the other hand, female sexual response, we go on to say, is an incredibly complex intersection of physiological systems, psychological systems, social, behavioral, contextual. And as we're speaking, I'm very aware of snickers and people leaning over to each other to whisper, which was almost worse than the people who were totally silent. Because as I said, without interest, without follow-up questions, you're not getting to the next meeting. We weren't asked a single question about the risks to our forecast or anything about the business strategy. No money, meeting 1. We go into the next meeting. We got this. We pump ourselves up in between. The question is, what does it do for him? Another great question. We had the results of a clinical study that indicated that the product improved arousal, desire, and satisfaction for him, and that we believed anecdotally that his increased satisfaction was the result of his feeling proud or accomplished that his partner enjoyed it more, and perhaps a sense of confidence that he was a more able partner. And again, we have the same experience. We hear giggles. We could see the silence, people whispering, passing notes. And I had the feeling that I was in a 7th grade locker room, and then I realized that that might be insulting to 7th graders who, in many cases, acted more maturely than the people in these rooms. We leave the meeting. We have 11 more meetings scheduled. And at this point, Mary and I are concerned that it will feel more like a prison sentence than a great business opportunity. Now, just as an aside, I am by nature a credit card person. I like to track everything. I could tell you, if you had any interest, what I spent on groceries in June of 2000. Not that anybody's asking. And for some reason, in that moment, during the financial downturn, something made me look in my wallet, and I had a $100 bill. And it was either dumb luck or divine intervention, but it was the inspiration for what we did next. We huddled, we come up with our new plan, and we say to each other, we're going to go for it. We walk into the next meeting. We're now at number 3, for those of you counting at home. I held up a $100 bill, and I smack it on the table. And I say, here's a $100 bill. If anyone asks us a question about the category that we can't answer, or makes a double entendre, or even a joke that makes us blush, this $100 is yours. Pregnant pause for pun and impact, and then we give them the knockout. She likes it more. She wants to have it more. Let's talk about the business model. This time, we got total silence, but we had their attention. And that moment essentially transformed how we thought about the business, how we talked about the business, and how we approached building the business. As everyone knows, building a business is hard. It's hard, hard work. And when you're in a category where there really isn't a consistent or comfortable vocabulary that by its mere subject matter makes people uncomfortable, it makes it all the more challenging. My book, Orgasmic Leadership, Profiting from the Coming Surge in Female Sexual Health and Wellness, focuses on the trials and the tribulations and the triumphs that these entrepreneurs, or as I say, these vagipreneurs, experience on their way to building businesses. And these experiences that they had, while they're specific to these industries in female and reproductive health, which would include reproduction, fertility, infertility, menstruation, incontinence, really can reveal a lot of helpful ideas about what it takes to build a business, about overcoming challenges, about understanding how to sell, about finding your target customer, and ultimately driving the revenue that will be the engine for your business's growth. Couple key principles I want to share today. Number one, these vagipreneurs are solving personal problems that are common problems. It might surprise you to know that 43% of women at some point in their lives have sexual concerns and difficulties, and that 1/3 of women never experience an orgasm. These are big problems. Take Polly. At the age of 21, Polly was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer, the treatment for which resulted in the loss of her fertility and surgically induced menopause. And in speaking to Polly and talking to her about building her business, she said she was quite stunned. My doctor talked to me about fertility and about freezing my eggs, but no one talked to me about my response, my libido, my sexual life. So what did Polly do? She created a business to solve a personal problem that affected a lot of other people. She created a company called Unbound, which is a direct-to-consumer company that discreetly, privately, and in a classy way delivers sexual enhancing products of a variety of categories to women in their homes. She secured $2.7 million in financing. She continues to grow. This is no longer about Polly's problem. This is about a much bigger problem, and she is coming up with solutions for these problems. Number two, entrepreneurs in general and vagipreneurs specifically need to understand their customers. What these entrepreneurs are doing in the female sexual health space is they are looking at women as total people, not as a person who's menstruating or a person who's trying to get pregnant or a person whose estrogen levels are lowering during menopause, but that there are things that are common across their life experience for which they might find solutions. So Colette has a device company, and her device company is built on the premise that the reduced vaginal muscle and tissue that women experience is the same right after childbirth as it is from the side effects of obesity, as it is from women aging and suffering from menopause and lowering hormone levels. So what did she do? She came up with a device that actually increases the collagen production and strengthens the tissue and the musculature so that women had a number of important benefits. Reduced incontinence, less painful, sometimes more enjoyable sex, and better lubrication. That's meaningful. It doesn't matter what age you are. So instead of chopping women up into little life stages and body parts, Colette and many of these other vagipreneurs come up with approaches that span a broader portion of her life. Being a vagipreneur is hard. Building a business is hard. In the dozens of interviews I've done with vagipreneurs in every different aspect of female health, whether it's infertility, menstruation, incontinence, pregnancy, you name it, everybody had the same experience in the sense that fundraising took longer, it was harder, The whole process was more time consuming. It was more enervating than energizing a lot of the time. And all of them, myself included, need to have coping mechanisms. My default has always been humor. So I go back to the classic movie Airplane, where the chief traffic control officer, every time another crisis happens, which is about every 30 seconds, he says, oh, I guess I picked the wrong day to give up smoking or drinking. And my favorite one is, I guess I picked the wrong day to give up sniffing glue, which always makes me laugh, always puts me back into perspective. And it's a trick that I do because there are going to be those hard times. And this happens to a lot of people that I work with. Take Mika. Mika's a young entrepreneur who is building a natural female products company. And what that means is she's using healthier ingredients from different parts of the world that are meant to have fewer chemicals. Her initial focus is really in condoms, but she's expanded her product line to include tampons and wipes and a number of other products. The first time Mika had a video release, and she's talking on camera and it's online and people see her, she was the subject of internet trolls. Horrible personal things were being said to her and about her. What's that about? So Mika has a freckle above her lip. And the comments said things like, you shouldn't be selling condoms, you should be making sure you're using condoms, as if that freckle was the result of an STD. And the conversation went totally off what Mika was trying to talk about, which was really improving the options that women have for improved sexual health. So what did she do? She also has a good sense of humor, but her response, her coping mechanism, was to double down, dig deeper, get bolder in her communication, get bolder in her presentation to the outside world, and say, you know what? They're not going to get me down. This is important. This is about them. This isn't about me. And she continues to grow and expand. Being an entrepreneur is not easy. Being a vagipreneur is not easy. It's tiring, it's energizing, it's enervating, it's funny, it's fantastic, it's miserable, sometimes all in the same day. And you need the drive to keep going. In my company, everybody had to man the phones to speak to customers, to hear about their experiences. And one fortuitous day, I pick up the phone, and a woman on the other end of the phone says, "This stuff really works. Thank you, God." So every time I lost some energy or felt like I didn't have the pep in my step, I would say to myself, or I'd say to my kids as I was leaving the house, Mommy's going out to do God's work. So I encourage you to go out, be bold, be successful, be part of the conversation, be part of the change that you want to see, and become an orgasmic leader. Thank you.